listening to Cricket World Radio.
And this is Cricket World Around the World. Welcome to Cricket World Around the World. I'm John Pennington. I'm joined for today's show by Jim White. Hello, Jim.
Hello, John. Delighted to be here. It's going to be a marvellous show.
Well, let's hope so. We're going to talk about some of the big matches that have been played this week, and then we're going to finish off as ever with the ICC show. They've got some very good interviews to listen out for later on. Now, England, Sri Lanka as we speak, and we're still late afternoon here in the UK. No play in Cardiff. It's raining, but we are looking forward to England playing against Sri Lanka.
We certainly are, John. You might say, if you're slightly pessimistic, no real surprise this time of year that there's rain around in the West Country. Of course, unfortunate, the last time England played in Cardiff, very exciting. I'm not too sure we'll see the same amount of excitement, edge of the seat stuff, of course, when Monty Panesar and Jimmy Anderson were blocking out felt like a win, really, wasn't it? But it was only a draw in the first test of the Ashes last time round. Of course, crucial game that for England. And they've come a long way since then. So back on home soil after a quite an incredible winter, really. Big ups and downs. And I think a lot of them were looking forward to this cricket because it's Test cricket. It's what the game's all about. The ODI series in Australia was shocking. The World Cup didn't help them at all. And I think a lot of the players have had a chance to put their feet up, rest. Absolutely key for professional sportsmen these days. Recharge the batteries. All the cliches are coming out now, and play some proper cricket, some Test cricket.
And England very vocal about targeting that number one spot. They've got to win against Sri Lanka well. They've got to then win against India well if they're going to have the points in the bank, so to speak, to get up to that number one spot. So it's a long-term target. Do you think they can do it?
I think they can. I think if you look at the makeup of the team, players coming in, those on the edges that are starting to give the players who've got the current places, a little bit of a nudge to say we are here. And great selection problem for Andy Flower to have. With some of the changes, some are voluntary, some might have been a bit of a push rather than a jump, but that's the way cricket evolves. Players decide when they're going to retire from certain formats of the game. So things are changing, but yeah, good for Andy Flower to have that in front of him, and positive times for English cricket. And I think targeting number one spot has been a long-term goal, as you mentioned there, for Andy Flower. I think the winter, because of the World Cup, took a bit of an edge off the Ashes and the number one Test spot, but they're now back on it now. India have obviously had a great time themselves with the World Cup, and we see a lot of them still playing in the IPL. Can they focus on Test cricket? It'll be interesting to see those that are involved in that, whether they're really entrenched in the bish bosh bash cricket or the longer format of the game.
Yeah, we'll no doubt talk about India quite a lot as the summer progresses. That's going to be a fantastic tour when they're over in sort of late June, July, August, and then through to September. Very quickly, Morgan Bopara, was that the right choice made in your view? Morgan, of course, selected over the likes of Bopara, Hildreth, Taylor.
Yeah,
they were in with a shout.
If you're going like for like, Bopara's the man to replace Collingwood because of his bowling abilities, particularly when you're only playing four frontline bowlers. You need the little fill-in bowler. Jonathan Trott doesn't bowl too much, although he can, so maybe he'll have a few overs. Let's see what happens there.
My point on this is, if you're worrying about overs coming from number 5-6 batsmen, then you've got problems. For me, I still think you pick your batsman to bat if they bowl great, but I don't see why a batsman should get in because he bowls. To me, that's a sign of weakness.
Yeah. But if he batted at number 3 or 4 and he bowled, he'd still bowl. I'm saying as a like-for-like player, if he's good enough to bowl, he can bowl, and he's a good little nibbler. And he's the sort of person that will get you a wicket when you need it. When you've had your fast bowlers, give them a rest, keeps them fresh. So it is key. I think, if you've just got the 4 fast bowlers, sometimes it can be a bit of a struggle. Quick word on Sri Lanka, of course, who are a few players down. Some aren't even touring, which I think will be a little bit of disappointment to the crowds that would have liked to have seen the Malingas and the Muralitharans of this world. Obviously different reasons why they're not here. But one last time would have been a great spectacle. I hope the crowd still turn up to watch, which I think will be a really good series, because the Sri Lankans have got some very talented batsmen, and if England get on the wrong side or it's not swinging, they could be chasing a lot. And I go back to your point about the batsmen, let them bat. Well, they may well need to.
Okay, let's move on to a very different format of the game. It couldn't be more different, really, between 2020 cricket and Test cricket. Indian Premier League really building to its climax now. The Chennai Super Kings, talking of chasing a lot of runs, very impressive when they were beating the challengers Bangalore a couple of days ago. And we've now got Mumbai still in it, and Bangalore, of course, they have this eliminated. They've got another chance. What have you made of the sort of closing stages of the world's richest 2020 competition?
Yeah, it's a. I'm in two minds, JP. Not a strange thing for me, of course. A lot of cricket is my first thing. On the back of the World Cup in India, I know the Indians love their cricket and it's been invariably well supported. But I think IPL 4 has fallen a bit short of its targets in that of the excitement. I know there are two new teams, good, but it's a long tournament, and with a long World Cup, I really hope this doesn't damage the sport in general, because yes, it's exciting. People like to see the sixes. There's more sixes. It's raining sixes out there now.
I think 600 plus.
Brilliant.
Incredible.
Yeah, fantastic. But
most of them scored by Chris Gale.
Exactly. A lot of cricket, and notably Harbhajan even popped one in just to win the game last time round. I like the fact that it gives people this. If you play it for excitement, and it gives people a chance to spread their wings and feel that they can just, not be afraid to play their game, great. And I think that'll help some of the longer formats compared to 2020, like the World Cup, and even to an extent Test cricket. Even in the English County Championship, people are chasing down targets now that they would have blocked up shop and gone home at tea time in years gone by. Forget, we're not chasing that. Don't be ridiculous. End of the game, start the car, as one of the other English commentators might have said. But no, it's good, but I think it's again fallen a bit short. However, again, some amazingly brilliant individual performances. Adam Gilchrist, 100 we want to talk about. Chris Gale just hitting the ball into next week forever. So there are some stars of it. Does it go any way to producing some new talent for the Indian cricket team? Maybe. It's giving people a bit of a stage, but what a stage to put them on. It's not like it's a bit of a few quiet games. It's a pretty intense cauldron.
Certainly is. And okay, who's going to win it?
I think that Mumbai will. JP, I think they'll get through to the final. It's going to be Tendulkar's brilliant double. He won the World Cup with India. That was always on the cards. And even though Chennai will have a say in it, and I'm sure the Bangalores, who of course are top of the table as we speak, I just think the crowd are worth 30 runs to Mumbai every time they play. And it's going to be the dream finish for Tendulkar, I think. Probably his last IPL. Or will he go on to his 50? Who knows?
Well, who knows? I'm going to go for the Royal Challengers Bangalore for what it's worth, with Gale and Kohli in form. I fancy them to lift that trophy for the second time. Let's just switch our attentions back to Test cricket now. Another series recently concluded. Pakistan hitting back to beat the West Indies in that second and final test out there in St Kitts, level the series 1 apiece. Would you say that was a fair result between two evenly matched sides that, for me, are in transition? It's, West Indies without Gale, without Chanderpaul for this game. Pakistan, no Yunus Khan, no Mohammad Yusuf, and no Cameron Akmal either.
Well, I can give you two opinions. You may be pleased to know, JP. One's mine and one's that of Colin Croft. My opinion was that I actually thought West Indies would win it 2-0. So 1-1, yeah, it's probably a fair result. Spoke to Colin Croft just the other evening at a filming of the cricket film Fire in Babylon, you'll be pleased to know. And he said that West Indies were lucky. He thinks they should have been beaten 2-0. He thinks that the state of where they are, which is partly to do with kind of where the film's coming from, which is where West Indies cricket has been and needs to get back to. We mentioned Chris Gale a minute ago. He thinks that there's a lot to be done there, and there are players missing, and they're just not performing. I think just looking in as an outsider, looking completely into it, have they really got back to this idea of playing for the badge? As we know, the West Indies team only come together under the flag of cricket. So from all the islands, as I say, I thought West Indies would win 2-0 because I thought they were getting there, but Pakistan, once again, consistently inconsistent, get it right. And they've got some great performers, and they've hit back in very strongly. So of the two now, I would suggest they're heading forward into their next series with the upper hand.
That's right. They actually go on to play Ireland later, very soon. Actually, play a couple of ODIs. They might be a little bit nervous about that because, of course, Ireland, last time the two teams met, they beat them. That famous game in Jamaica back in 2007. They're not scheduled to play any Test cricket for a little while, Pakistan, so it's maybe a shame for them they can't carry that momentum forward. The West Indies, however, they've got India at home next, and if you want to challenge yourself in Test cricket, well, that's one way to do it. And if I could describe the face that Jim's making, it gives you an idea of just what West Indies have got lined up against them.
And then India, then after that, come to England.
That's right, yes.
Yeah,
so they're pretty busy.
India will be pretty in a good mood, won't they? So
they have, of course.
What a summer we got coming up.
They have, of course, rested quite a few players for the one-day games. So Tendulkar, Dhoni, Zahir Khan, and a few others. So at least the guys who are playing flat-out World Cup, IPL, they are being given a little bit of rest because obviously for them, the England tour is the big one. Virendra Sehwag undergoing shoulder surgery, of course. Gautam Gambhir potentially now injured as well, but he ought to return for England. And as I say, yes. A big test, isn't it, for the West Indies to take on India?
It is, and as I've just said, the momentum. At the end of the one-day series, they had the momentum. They won the last two, and they beat Pakistan in the first test. Fantastic. Now they're on the end of a bit of a hiding, and India coming to town. Great. I'm sure they're looking forward to that.
And what did Colin Croft have to say about that when you caught up with him?
Yeah, we didn't look too far ahead, actually.
Opportunity missed there, Jim.
Well, I don't know. I'm seeing him next week. I'll ask him then.
Okay, great stuff, Jim. We're actually going to stay on the theme of India because it's time for the ICC radio show now, and amongst other interviews, we're going to catch up with Indian wicketkeeper Parthiv Patel. He's been named in the squad to tour the West Indies. Had a pretty good couple of weeks. He was named Kochi captain. Also celebrated the birth of his first child as well. Also on this week's show, an interview with Jonathan Trott.
A big hello and welcome to everyone joining us here on this edition of ICC Cricket World. This is Jatin Sabru. In today's episode, we talk to Indian wicketkeeper Parthiv Patel on his selection for the tour to the West Indies. We also have an exclusive chat with Jonathan Trott on retaining the Ashes and looking ahead at hosting World Cup finalists Sri Lanka and then India. But as always, we begin the show with all the latest happenings in the world of cricket. For all of that, here's Divya Bhagat with the news.
Gautam Gambhir is set to miss the limited overs leg of the Indian tour to the West Indies. Earlier, the Southpaw was named the captain of the Indian team that leaves for West Indies on June 1st. Gambhir sustained the injury in the ICC World Cup final and aggravated it while playing for the Kolkata Knight Riders in the IPL. He has been advised to rest for 4 to 6 weeks, and this would leave India without their 3 specialist opening batsmen, as Sachin Tendulkar has been rested from the tour and Virendra Sehwag is already out with a shoulder injury. Meanwhile, former Australian batsman David Boon will begin a new innings, this time as an ICC match referee. Boon has stepped down from his position in the Aussie selection panel to take up the job. He will replace fellow Aussie Alan Hurst, who is retiring as a match referee for almost 7 years. The former Australian batting great had been involved with cricket administration with Tasmania for 12 years. Boon will learn the nitty-gritties of his new job from Chief Referee Ranjan Madugale during the England-India series. His first series independently in charge will be Zimbabwe's home series against Pakistan in September. And Pakistan have levelled the 2-match test series at 1-1. In the second test played at St. Kitts, Pakistan scored 272 runs in the first innings thanks to half-centuries from Azhar Ali, Umar Akmal and Tanveer Ahmed. The hosts were bundled out for 223 runs in their first innings as Mohammad Hafiz and Saeed Ajmal bagged 3 wickets each. Pakistan batting looked strong in the second innings as they managed to score 377 runs for the loss of 6 wickets. Tawfiq Umar was the top scorer with 135 runs. Captain Misbah-ul-Haq scored an unbeaten century to leave a stiff target of 427 runs for the hosts for victory. Spin duo of Ajmal and Abdur Rahman then scalped 7 wickets amongst them to register a 196-run victory. Saeed Ajmal was adjudged the man of the series.
Thank you, Divya, for updating us with all the happenings in the world of cricket. But now, the next gentleman we hear from on the show is someone who's done enough hard work to make sure whenever Mahendra Singh Dhoni decides not to play or is forced not to play because of any sort of injury, he is the go-to man. We're talking about Parthiv Patel, who got an opportunity to don the India colours when he was extremely young, but now into the latter part of his career, he'll be making a comeback when he takes a long flight to the Caribbean with the Men in Blue. Here he is in a conversation with Dinesh Chopra.
Parthiv, first things first, not many people are saying that it's a comeback of sorts for you. What do you yourself make of this, you being selected to go for the West Indies tour?
I think I'm pretty happy to be back, but I think I was there in the squad for the South African one-day series and in the New Zealand as well. But I think, wasn't there in the World Cup, so probably people are thinking as I'm making a comeback, but pretty happy to be back in the side.
Now, talking about your cricket, Parthiv, how different you see your role now as compared to when you first broke into the team? Now you're seen as an opening batsman. how different do you see it, and how your preparations are different from what it used to be when you first came in?
I thought I was very young very young when I got into the side. I was there as a wicket keeper, and probably no one was expecting me to score runs. But now that I'm there as an opening batsman, scoring runs in domestic game, so there's a lot of confidence in me. I have a lot of belief now. And as far as role is concerned, if I'm opening the batting, I'll look to bat long and try and get more than 50s and try and score 100. And when I'm batting, I should be thinking like I'm a proper batsman, and when I'm keeping, I should think like a wicket keeper. So I think that thinking has changed probably.
Parthiv, tell us what's the psyche of an opening batsman, and how did you slip into that role? Because you didn't start as an opening batsman. I'm sure it would be different, because once you come off the field after first innings, after say keeping for 50 overs, and then you know that you have to again get in, face the new ball, give your team a good start. How do you psych yourself for that? How do you prepare yourself for that?
I've been opening in the junior cricket a lot, and because we were playing a lot of 4-day games in Ranji Trophy, it was a bit tiring for me to do keeping and opening. But then in the 1 days, I've always been an opener for state and in junior cricket as well. Even for India under-19s, I've opened. But yeah, it is a bit tiring after keeping for 50 overs. There's a lot of pressure. There's a lot intensity is really high. But for that, we need to work really hard, the keepers, and I've been working really hard on my fitness, and I'm getting those results. But it's a job which team you need to do it, and I'm quite happy opening the batting.
Do you think this was the only way that you could have staged a comeback into the Indian team, by opening the innings? Because most of the other slots are relatively full, because the Indian middle order is extremely chock-a-block. So that was also the reason that you came up the order?
Obviously, yes, I know. I think you need to, and my ultimate goal was to play for India, and for that, if I had to change anything in my cricketing thing, I was ready to do it, and that's what I did. I opened the inning in domestic games and did successfully, so that probably was the reason. The main reason for opening the domestic game was to coming back to the Indian side.
And how do you prepare yourself mentally that, of course, MS Dhoni is being rested at the moment, but whenever he comes back, again, you could be a second wicket keeper in the squad or may not be there at all. How do you reconcile to this, or how do you tell yourself, okay, this could be a temporary phase again?
Honestly, I'm not thinking anything beyond West Indies at the moment. Now I have an opportunity to prove myself again, and I'll try and stay in the present and try and perform to the best of my abilities. And if I keep performing, I think all these things will be taken care by itself.
Has Parthiv Patel reconciled that maybe, in the years to come and the years that have gone by, he would always be a second choice wicketkeeper because of Mahendra Singh Dhoni's success as a wicketkeeper as well as the captain of India? Have you reconciled to that?
See, whatever Mahi has achieved, I think he deserves it. He's one of the best captain of the India, and arguably the best captain India has ever seen. He's performed really well, and only thing which I can do is I can wait for my opportunity to come. And whenever I get an opportunity, I have to perform and trying to find a way to coming back to the Indian side.
A big thank you to Parthiv Patel for joining us on the show. But now we're also talking about the start of the English summer, with England currently busy hosting Sri Lanka in the first of the 3-test series. But many are billing this as only the appetizer, with the tour of India being the main course later on in the English summer. But there is one man who's become a sort of Mr. Dependable for England, someone who announced his arrival on the big stage in a grand style, scoring 100 in the final Ashes Test at the Oval a couple of years back. We're talking about Jonathan Trott. Here he is in a conversation with former England batsman Nick Knight.
Thoughts of Bengaluru and Melbourne are probably dim and distant, but some wonderful memories for you over the winter?
Yeah, well, it's a nice feeling to come home, reflect on what's happened in the last couple of months. The team's achieved a lot with the Ashes, a lot of good memories. It was very, very special. It's something that you probably think, I wish you'd taken a bit more in. You're a bit caught up in the atmosphere and the emotions, with your teammates, and the Barmy Army there making a great spectacle, a great atmosphere, and pretty much taking over on all the last days of the Test match, taking over the stadiums, because the crowds sort of seemed to dwindle towards the end of the Test match for some reason. But it was a great feeling. Guys all played a part. Guys coming in the team, guys going into the series under pressure, performing. and everything just clicked.
You're being very modest and right as well in saying that everyone played their part, but you played a significant role at the top of the order along with Alistair Cook. That must have been very satisfying too.
Yeah, it was a great thing to be able to, you know, be in the battle. Sometimes I'd be at the non-strikers and I'd sort of, you know, catch myself thinking, you know, crikey, I'm playing in an Ashes Test match in Australia. Or if I'd, you know, look around, I'd see Adelaide. I'd only ever seen the grounds before on TV. I'd never seen the grounds.
You can almost see it in your face. You're there in the moment. How have you achieved that? You know, how do you get into that mental state?
You know, it's like walking into an exam room, really. You know, as a kid, if you haven't prepared, you're going to be as nervous as hell. You know, this test or this exam is going to, you know, probably, you know, flunk it or fail it. But if you go into a test knowing that you've studied everything, you know, from, you know, top to tail, you're going to go into the test really relaxed and confident you're going to do well, no matter what it's thrown at you. So, pretty similar with regards to work ethic and training really hard in the nets and stuff like that. So that when I go in the middle, I know that I've done really the best I can to get ready.
Everything in this interview so far has been ultra positive and rightly so too. You've had a wonderful 12 months, 18 months. There's been an area of criticism for you in the World Cup, possibly, and you know, I'd love to get your views on this. You know, I've had my say at times, and I know one or two other commentators said maybe you're a bit one-paced at times. I mean, how do you see that?
Let me ask you, if we were, say, 30 for 2 and I went in and then ran at one of the bowlers and had tried it over the top, was caught it long on, or caught it mid on, and I was 30 for 3, then what would people say?
Yeah, well, that's why I wanted to hear your views.
Yeah,
I mean,
and I think, yeah, could I think a bit more positively about, you know, going out there and whacking over the top and being more aggressive and, you know, looking good and stuff like that. But, you know, what's more effective, me trying to build an innings with a non-striker or bringing in another new batter when we're 30 for 3 if I get out. And it's always weighing up the option, that positive, that risk-reward and stuff like that. I think my striker was about 2 runs less than Sangakkara's, and, you know, no one's having a go at him.
Mouth-watering summer for you coming up, both for you and the team. Do England get Ashes obsessed and say, right, our big moment has come and gone, we won in Australia, or are they, right, nose back on the grind, say, right, we've got to beat India now, and that's our benchmark?
And when I can tell you now, obviously we've got a couple of weeks off, but I know Andy Flower and Andrew Strauss are thinking, right, how are we going to beat Sri Lanka and India now, this Test series and the one-day cricket? You know, it's definitely in the forefront. There's the current team, the England side. If you're not trying to get better all the time or improve your game and you're standing still, you're going to get overtaken. And you know, that's the sort of mentality and the drive that the two of them have together, and then it sort of rubs off on the team. It's been very publicised that we want to be number 1 in the world. I think we got the people to do it. The all-round game, the different options we have, I think we can, you know, definitely challenge India, and it's going to be a good, you know, a benchmark coming up against them in our home patch, and they're number 1 in the world ranked. You know, I think so. Definitely mouth-watering cricket for the spectators. I think,
isn't it?
You know, Test cricket and one-day cricket.
Great to hear Jonathan Trott in a candid mood, because usually out there on the cricket field, he's extremely ruthless and harsh on that cricket ball. But now it's time to quickly have a look at the updates on the ranking charts.
Who else but the Indian maestro Sachin Tendulkar rules the roost in the Reliance ICC player rankings in Test matches with 883 points. Tied with him in points is South African Jacques Kallis, and trailing this duo by just 1 point is former Sri Lankan captain Kumar Sangakkara. Following the elegant left-hander are Englishman Jonathan Trott and the new one-day captain Alistair Cook. India's injured man Virendra Sehwag is on 6th place, closely followed by Mahela Jayawardene. West Indies comeback man Shivnarayan Chanderpaul is at number 8 with 779 points, and completing the top 10 in the Test match rankings are VVS Lakshman and Thilan Samaravida. Moving to the Reliance ICC player rankings for bowlers in Test matches, paceman Dale Steyn is leading the charts with 899 points. Steyn leaves the opposition far behind, and in 2nd place is English off-spinner Graham Swan with only 793 points. Swan is followed by teammate James Anderson with Morne Morkel on 4th, with the tall South African garnering 751 points. Fast catching up with him is the spearhead of India's bowling attack Zaheer Khan. Next up, another left-arm pacer in Mitchell Johnson, followed by 3 spinners Harbhajan Singh, Shakib Al Hasan and Daniel Vettori. And the final bowler in the top 10 is England's new 2020 captain Stuart Broad. That completes the Reliance ICC Test rankings for bowlers.
with that, we've come to an end of this edition of ICC Cricket World. A reminder to all the fans, for all the updates from the world of cricket, the website you need to log into is icccricket.yahoo.net. With that, it's time for me, Jatin Sapru, to wrap up the show with a promise we'll see you again really soon. Until then, it's goodbye.